Well, Deep, welcome to the show. How's things?
Amazing. Thanks so much, Vinny. Can't complain. They are really great these days.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Now, last weekend was your inaugural SF UAP hackathon, which I saw some shots and some videos from that. It looked like a great event. I just wondered if first you could tell me what a hackathon actually is.
Yeah, so a hackathon is a technology and programming competition where you have there's usually a theme or a set of problems centered around a particular theme. And the world's, best engineers and technologists will come together and they will hack together solutions. That's where the word hackathon comes from, where you're hacking together solutions to solve the particular problem of that hackathon or the set of problems that hackathon completely encompasses. So, in the case of the UFO or UAP hackathon, the idea was to basically develop technologies and solutions that people hack together to address and understand how to detect, track UAPs, and then also on the other flip side of the coin, how do we develop technologies to um, ensure that humanity survives and thrives in a post-disclosure world amongst NHI. So those were the two broad sort of categories of this hackathon. So yeah.
Sounds great. And so, how did you curate the team behind this? Like, we'll get onto the speakers, but what were sort of the skills and qualities you were looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. Behind the participants or the people who put it together or
Kind of the people that put it together, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that was complete serendipity and yeah, and luck. So, I had been wanting to do this for a couple of years. Like the first UAP hackathon, I was always paranoid that someone was going to scoop me actually at some point. So I went to the second Seoul conference, and that was like less than 6 months ago, and I came into who ended up becoming my main co-organizer, Marilyn. Ran into this individual. She was basically her and I immediately aligned on the UAP hackathon, and there was a number of us actually. Another mutual friend of ours who helped kind of put this together. She's a successful technology venture capitalist. Deploys millions of dollars for a living into companies. Another person is a successful autonomous submarine technology entrepreneur, up and coming, I will say, but already successful in many ways. So there was another friend. She is a MIT electrical engineer by training, a former high frequency and just trader, quant trader, and so on. She's developing a lot of AI technologies around psi phenomena and psionics. Yeah, I just I've had ran into a couple of people over the past few years, but it was really this Seoul conference when I met like Marilyn and Tyler and stuff like that in person. Tyler of the NPI, the New Paradigm Institute. It was really that, like, curating through Soul, I guess, and yeah, partially through my network. Only 10% though came directly, I think, this time. Yeah, it was just luck.
Nice. I like that. That's really cool. And you held the event on board the USS Hornet. What can you tell me about the Hornet these days?
Yeah, these days it's like a museum that you can go and check out. Like, you can check out the Apollo craft. There's Apollo room and stuff like that, which is really neat. The modules that were initially landed in the water and stuff like that, and you can see like old school F-18 carriers. There's like over a dozen decks on board. It's actually a huge ship. Funny thing about it is that there are stories of it being haunted, which I found um, fascinating. That's pretty funny. That's pretty cool. Some cool things about the Hornet. Yeah, again, until recently, until about a year ago, I didn't know that you could even rent it out. And so when I was thinking about like where would it make sense to put a UAP hackathon, it felt like renting out the naval carrier or aircraft carrier was like the most appropriate place to put it. So yeah, I kind of chose that for symbolic reasons. And so yeah, the Hornet is huge. could easily house over thousands, in my opinion. Like yeah, thousands of sailors if needed. We had cots, like bunk beds that you could actually sleep on. So this is where the sailors, yeah, and the aircraft carrier men and so on would stay and be stationed at, and you can see the kitchen and stuff. It's just fascinating. I stayed overnight. I slept with a lot of. There was a lot of hackers who stayed overnight. Different groups. We had an anti-gravity team working on their stuff. We had a autonomous object motion detection tracking team that stayed. Yeah, a couple hardware people. It was really great. The CTO of Enigma, I had really fun time. Former CTO. Yeah, really great hanging out with them as well.
Amazing. So, talk us through kind of the main goals of the hackathon. What were your specific goals that you had going into it, and were the goals met, or were the projects kind of formed, or any work that you planned on doing?
Yeah, so the goals coming into the hackathon really was that, um, and like Marilyn and I, this is where we really aligned, particularly in terms of practical outcomes. We really wanted to make sure that there was going to be tangible products and technologies that come from these six streams. And so, the motivation behind the six streams was that, I'd been thinking about like what are the broad categories of the phenomenon where um, there is technical scientific progress still left to be made, and it's also relevant for UAPs, because that's really the intersection, right, that we want to obviously be in. And so for example, those six streams, to answer your question, we did achieve what we set out to, which was really seeing these tools come to life, actual practical applications. Over the weekend, I would say there's as of after the weekend, there's probably like 16 to 17 new technologies that did not exist that are useful for UAP detection, or tracking, or reverse engineering, or studying NHI, or augmenting psionic abilities. And that's just from a weekend, right? And that's only because we got the brightest engineers and scientists and technologists in the goddamn planet in one place to go and work on this. A few years ago, they would have laughed this topic off, but I think so many things have come together. I completely, as always, like kind of risked my social capital for this. But I think I've gotten to a point where, like, I have a very strong, very supportive network. People here in San Francisco who are very open minded and who change their mind to data points. When new priors come, right, they update their. New data comes, they update their priors, and so that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so these new technologies and things, will they be open source? Will they be made available publicly? What's the kind of time frame or plan with regards to that?
Everything will be made open source. And so what I'm currently doing is just going through all the submissions, organizing it, and putting it onto GitHub so that it's easily accessible for the entire world. So that's going to include Gary Nolan's data, again, data that nobody has ever seen in the entire field around very, very famous UAP materials, crash recovery cases. We're going to have open sourced some of the DICOM data around the Peruvian Nazca mummies. Uh, and then we're also going to have, yeah, all these projects. Some people did. So one track that I really wanted was working on simulating advanced civilizations. Um, yeah, so we had a couple of cool streams, and one of them was just what I wanted to do was make sure that we were taking advantage of the breakthroughs in AI technology, agentic technology. So that includes being able to use AI agents to interact with each other and simulate what an emergent society of intelligent, super intelligent beings will look like. What kind of socio-political systems, economic and philosophical systems can we expect really intelligent beings to take on? We have AI agents today where I would argue that AI today is probably smarter than 99.9999% of the population. Like, frankly speaking. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was inevitable, but it is real. So if we continue to use these super intelligent, digital super intelligent organizations, if you will, I almost said life form, but I want to be very careful. To to simulate NHI. it seemed like a very productive form. So there were a couple of people who updated like the Drake equation. Some people did like simulation type stuff around advanced civilizations. So we'll open source all that, and yeah, we'll open source a couple of interesting ideas that people had around molecular dynamics for applications for reverse engineering materials science and stuff with UFOs.
I mean, that's some pretty frontier science, cutting edge stuff. Like, how do you, uh, like, what's your ultimate vision to kind of merge this sort of frontier science? I mean, will you be incorporating sort of startups and things like that?
Yeah, excellent question. So the ultimate vision is with a San Francisco UP hackathon, we'll make it like a cultural staple where it'll become ideally a unifying event. You can be anyone, anywhere, and from any time, and show up. And you can like develop these technologies that are useful for ensuring that humans are successfully interfacing with NHI. That's really the intersection that we want to be at. So number one, get up to speed with the last 80 years of gatekeeping and what those guys know, right? So that's what these six tracks are really doing in large part. At least, well, four of those six tracks. The other two are net new that I don't even think the legacy UAP crash recovery programs have been doing. So, but yeah, four of these tracks though will allow us to allow the public to now own their own craft because right now it's never been by the public for the public, right? By the people for the people. And so when you have a number of technologies and tools that are open source that let people detect, track, and potentially recover their own UAP, that changes the entire game. And so number one is ensuring that we've done that. So where I see us taking us here is like encouraging the entire ecosystem, whether it's projects, products, startups, teams, and so on and so forth, or nonprofits like NPI, for example, right? Like Soul Foundation is another one. We co-host an event on Friday with them with the hackathon. So just being able to support that, that's what the hackathon will be or continue to be. And then there's Open NHI, which is the initiative that my co-founder Marilyn and I will be working on. OpenNHI is essentially going to be this decentralized open source platform that completely shares all information possible that we can as humans about NHI, whether that's artificial superintelligence, which is coming, right, over the next 2 to 5 years. There will be AI systems that will effectively be alien to us in terms of its ability, intelligence, its thinking, and so on and so forth. We want Open NHI to be studying and tracking all forms of NHI, whether it's ASI and whatever it's doing on its own, because at some point it will stop listening to us. So we want to be able to keep track of what the hell it's doing. Uh, just like we would with any other UAP, I would say it's in our best interest as silly humans. And then, and then the other aspect of Open NHI is to really ensure like the main priority is like at least how we've been thinking about it is a data sharing platform for sure for UAPs and NHI. But I'm also interested in answering the philosophical aspect through this uh, initiative. And so for me, like, what's really personally important about Open NHI is that as we learn more about NHI, we're going to learn more about their influence on humanity. How many of these species have been right genetically engineering us over how many thousands of years? And so as we start learning that, there's going to be super important debates and conversations. I think that's going to come up. There are going to be people like maybe Elon, for example, right? Or I don't want to make assumptions actually about what he might think, but they're people who are like just super pro-human and super um skeptical or like just aware, like hesitant, right, or guarded when it comes to other forms of intelligence that are not human. So like Elon is very much a realist about AI risk. I would say he does acknowledge that it could very much kill us all. So and so so he'll respond and react a different way. Some people, when it comes to NHI, in my opinion, will react similarly. They will have that Elon type response where it's like, holy crap, it's clearly a matter of us versus them when it comes to AI. It's humans versus AI, right? So So similarly with NHI, I think there's going to be a growing faction of people post disclosure as like Open NHI and these UAP hackathons continue to take momentum because Silicon Valley changes the world every time. Once an idea hits Silicon Valley and spreads, they literally create $1 trillion companies and change like human history. So as that starts happening with UAPs, right? That's the hope. We're gonna have, I think, people who will start becoming increasingly more wary of NHI influence, and they will want to undo and completely reverse any influence from NHIs. And there is going to be factions of humans who want to completely integrate with NHIs and understand why we've been genetically engineered, who we are from the in the galactic retrocausal timeless perspective, right? And so Open NHI will be at the center of these debates. That's how I see it in the future.
Right. Now, you mentioned the Dr. Gary Nolan, obviously. What can you tell us about his presentation? You mentioned materials that he brought along. What's the plan with those materials? Where were they from? Any information on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the materials, so I haven't yet fully released all the origins of the materials. Maybe some of them we did. I want to keep the rest. I will release it like all at once. So just the reason why we did that was because we wanted people to build AI systems that can predict which UFO case a material particularly belongs to. Because if you can crack that, you can essentially create a classifier that takes future samples, right, and then matches it to known types of cases. So yeah, I can say one of them is the Ubatuba material, a couple of famous crash recovery cases, and these are all APT data sets, as well as scanning electron microscope data sets that come with it. The APT data, those are atom probe tomography type data sets, and so what you have are angstrom accurate positions of atoms and their bond lengths and coordinates. Gary's presentation was about the some of the data, what that looks like, the interesting anomalies about some of the results of the APT scans of some of these materials. You have strange things from like high purity concentrations to like almost alloying or depositions of elements that you would typically not ever see in any way that you would think is normal or meaningful. And so the beauty is that with advanced computational AI for material science algorithms, we now have ways for people to actually predict and simulate those materials based on the materials characterization. And so you can have AI predict how a material should behave under certain conditions, even if you don't have the simulation or the environment to create in the real world. So it doesn't always work, but it's a great and powerful tool when it does. And so the part of the goal is to use other people's use other people's AI sets, connect it to Gary's, and so that was part of the motivation behind open sourcing my own AI for material science models. And so now that's all out there. So people have the ingredients to build. So what Gary was talking about, for example, right, was in his presentation how he wants to see a UAP materials reverse engineering pipeline. And what I will say is that the way that you would do this is you take uh, instruments like Gary's, the atom probe tomographer that he was using. He's also iterating other chemical analysis instruments, scientific instruments. Take that data at atomic level accuracy, convert them into CIF files, right? And so, what I would suggest for anybody listening who wants to move the state of the art of public reverse engineering crash recovery, right? Like, because it's us versus the gatekeepers. Let's be fucking honest. Right. So anybody out there listening who can help, take the data, take the models that I open sourced, and take other existing computational material science, chemistry, neural networks for molecular dynamics, as well as like predicting the charge density and local density of states. Take these models, predict those properties, and then synthesize proxy materials in a lab somewhere and go characterize them. And then now you have a feedback loop. Now you can start learning and finding deeper insights about these UFO materials that are publicly known. And as you get better and better, at one point, we're going to have a capability at the public level that is far better than what any of these private contractors or gatekeepers have. And what that will lead to is an inversion of who's getting these contracts in the first place. So,
Wow, that's amazing. It's very cutting edge. Have you faced much criticism, skepticism, or pushback from the kind of the, let's say, the traditional scientific community?
no, not anymore. Honestly, no. If in fact I've gotten tons of support and lots of new eyes on this stuff. In fact, most of my pushback and skepticism recently has come from the a very small minority pocket of San Francisco locals, who who have like I actually so this is a random side note. I believe I was shot at. Um, I will say that, right? And so I made a claim publicly about all this stuff. Another hotel staffer with me, he says he saw the gun. He also believes this too. Like, we're not stupid people. I fired many guns. Anyways, so I go on to say, hey guys, like I just got shot at twice right outside my hotel. I tweeted this publicly. And so, it becomes international news by accident a few weeks ago. And essentially, one of the things that happened was that I got pulled into being a tech founder. I got pulled into the culture war. Like that's happening between sort of the tech right, if you will, or perceived tech right, and the local sort of left, extreme left population or whatever. This is just my understanding of the situation. Um, and so, small pocket people were just like, oh, this guy, like first he saw just fireworks and like misclassified as a gun. Now he's throwing an alien hackathon. Like he's like this. He's just a trifling techie. Like he was like, there are people who believe that I'm using alleged power that I apparently have to bring some kind of techno-fascism or something like that. It's kind of crazy. But yeah. So, anyways, I'm taking it in stride though. So, ironically, it's random locals who should actually be interested in aliens who are like, yeah. But no, scientists have been really respectful. So again, some of the most absolutely brilliant engineers and scientists on the goddamn planet came to this thing and were super respectful and participating. Like they put in their work. So yeah, it's very ironic.
I mean, that's really encouraging to hear. That really is.
That's awesome. Fair enough. True that. Because this is 5 years ago. I wouldn't even imagine that I would ever be saying this like 5 years ago, actually. Like I was still teeter tottering. Like, is this ever going to happen? Like, but yeah.
It's funny how things change over the years. It all happens so quickly as well.
Yeah. The days are long, but the years are short.
That's right. That's how it feels, for sure, for sure. Now, I want to ask you, what role do you think the general public can play in these kind of UAP investigations or anything? Do you think we're too reliant on organizations?
Yeah, we are too reliant on organizations. What I think the public can do best right now is really support open source decentralized initiatives, right? Like that's really what OpenNHI is trying to be. We're really trying to make it the platform for the public to contribute their data, their knowledge. There's a lot of tacit and implicit information, just very valuable information embedded just in UFO Twitter, right? Like there's a lot of people who, I'm not going to call it UFOX. I'm sorry. It was sorry, Eli, I love you, but the UFO Twitter sounds way cooler. And that's what it was originally. So, yeah. So, like, essentially, we're gonna have, there's a lot of information there. People like Chris Wolford, right, as one example, right, that just comes to mind. Of course, John Greenwald, like, just a whole bunch of people. Adam Goldsack is another one, right? So, all the lads here have like their own information that should be embedded here. All that is to say is that, yeah, support the open source. What we're trying to do is unify everyone and standardize the hardware and software needed to detect, track, and recover UFOs, and also study and understand how to and interface with NHI, whether that's artificial intelligence, general intelligence, super intelligence, or like a goddamn Nordic or some weird hyperdimensional, hyper real being that we barely understand, right? Like we need to be able to document all of this stuff really intellectually. So yeah, I think yeah, best way to support would be we will be putting out in the next give us 9 to 12 months. Obviously, our deadlines internally are more aggressive than that, but we're hoping to put out in the next 9 to 12 months. To like really two things. One is a kit, a real hardware kit that people can purchase. There have been attempts at people doing this in the past, like right. Um, what we're going to be doing differently is we're trying to set up a software incentive or mechanism that incentivizes people to keep these kits open to collect data, and we pay them. So you're literally just getting paid for contributing data to the network. And so the idea there is to, yeah, just have pilot this ecosystem where you have 100 UFO researchers. They're all down to, have each 100 kits each. Um, the network pay, and then somebody like a Skywatcher or some other UFO organization that, right, will pay for, like, let's say the data, or maybe some public nonprofit, right, or a philanthropist, pays for the data and queries it. Maybe they're offering, $10,000 for this data or $100,000, and now each person makes it, $100 or $1,000, depending on how much money, right, was put into the pool, and over whatever amount of time. So, um, if yeah, I guess like one way for people to help out is if they can support these projects, like support OpenNHI, buy a kit, try to make some both money and help the community with your data. It's all going to be open sourced. Again, that will be the mandate. That'd be awesome.
That's brilliant. It's really good to hear. I suppose that can apply to anyone from a young wannabe engineer to someone, old who's not really done anything like this before. I think that's great.
Easily, we're trying, and because we're open sourcing the hardware and the software, anyone can replicate it and anyone can build on top of it, more importantly. So if you are a young engineer, let's say, you may have an idea for like some cool EEG thing where you're like, oh hey, I want to sense brainwaves and detect that there's a spike in the alpha spectrum where when a UAP arrives, right? So like maybe they'll create a brain computer interfacing protocol that the rest of the network can use. Now we can all buy the same EEG headset and it's ready to get set up. So that's the beauty.
That'd be really cool. So tell me, what inspired you to initially kind of take this bold leap into the scientific and entrepreneurial aspects of UAP? Like, what got you like first involved or interested?
So I was interested. I have a strange story here. I was always interested as a kid. My the first books I read were by Jim Mars when I was 6 years old. And like the crazy thing is, I have zero recollection of the first like few years of reading about UFOs. From like age 6 to 9, it's almost like non-existent. All I have are lots of books under my name, and my parents remember all this, but I don't. Which is strange. Apparently, for example, they would take me to libraries and local school library, and I would immediately go to the UFO and aliens like part of the section, and I'd skip everything else every time. So like much to their dismay. And so yeah, a few years later, around the age of 11, and this is just something I remembered after having particularly this piece that I'll tell you about in a second. Um, but yeah, so I remember this particular piece when I was talking to Marilyn yesterday, which was crazy, because I was just telling you about this experience. But yeah, I used to go to this gift program, which is hilarious because that's been coming up a lot recently. And the only thing that used to stand out to me back then, or like recently, that when I used to remember this, was that I was the only one who had been given projects around like crop circles, ETs, psionics, ESP, precognition. All the other classmates, which were kids from different schools, like there was like 27, I think, total schools. So I was one of them. And they would all be given scientific projects because that's what we were supposed to be there for, or so I thought. Like, and and I remember something when I was telling Marilyn this, because like I remember this part like for years, like of course, but what I forgot about was that after school, like after this class or whatever, I my teacher did show me, and this is what I was working on last night. She would like show me like exercises of like practicing telekinesis and psychokinesis. There was like these like ways that she would show me to like visualize like an energy ball like growing between my hands. And she would like try to get me to like basically first of all create this energy ball, if you will, or psionic ball or something, and then mentally move it to a thermometer across the room and try to get the temperature to go up. So like it was so strange because I was just like looking back, I'm like, why was I having these like why did she tell me this? Like why did I even learn this at all? That's so strange. So after that though, like a few years go by, I've become like 13, 14, whatever, become way more of a materialist, reductionist, super obsessed with like, Schrodinger and quantum mechanics and all that good stuff. And then like fast forward, I get into like, and I was doing tech entrepreneurship the entire time because my dad was a tech entrepreneur. So, I saw him doing that, and I was always obsessed by that. So, yeah, I think by the time I got into UAPs again as a young adult, I was in the world's first quantum computing incubator, running one of the world's first quantum computing startups. So, it was then that I got into UAPs or UFOs again, and I started having my own experiences a few months in. And yeah, from I flew down, met Lou Elizondo, and Hal put off right after I had my own daytime experience, and the rest is history, I would say, from there.
So, in your time in this field, what are your thoughts on the origins of this of the NHI? We hear about the extraterrestrial hypothesis, and then the crypto and the ultra terrestrial, and all these different things. Do you think we're dealing with one type of NHI, or is it multiple, in your opinion?
Definitely multiple. Yeah, definitely. The same way that like life is so diverse here on Earth, right? Where we have bacteria inside of us, like literally millions of different kinds, all the way to mice, cats, dogs, us, and elephants and whatever. So yeah, I think NHI must intelligence, first of all, is like deeply related to computation. Computation is deeply related to physical processes. Um, and physical processes are deeply related to reality and space-time itself. Like space-time as a substrate is conducive to physical processes. And therefore space-time is there should be a substrate of something deeper or larger, or a process of something larger, a larger process. And so I think that life is a subset of this, if you will. So like it's inevitable. Long story short, it's inevitable that life must exist, and organized intelligence must exist in all forms of for like classes. There must be pockets of reality that we don't even have the words or physics or biology to comprehend, and that life is coming here. It doesn't, because it doesn't we don't, like, the universe isn't always comprehension, right? So it can come here without us having to understand it, what the hell it is, or where it comes from, or even what its world is. Like even comprehending it, we might not be able to. And then there's probably just like local extraterrestrials, probably time travelers, like human time travelers. There's probably um, artificial super intelligent beings that we create that merge with humans, that then merge with other alien life forms, that merge with time traveling things, that are all screwing up the timelines, and they're all here. So yeah, I think it's a very, very, very complex phenomenon.
Yeah, and you mentioned there are things that we may not understand. What do you think we can do, whether it be the scientific community, in learning about potential scientific models or even scientific languages that we haven't created to begin to understand NHI? Do you think that's something we're on the cusp of doing, or do you think it's going to take a lot longer?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot we can do for much of the phenomenon. Maybe it's going to be like Pareto principle, where like as we start documenting our experiences, like all the experiencers, for example, and everything we know about the phenomenon, we're going to start seeing meta patterns. We're going to start seeing, oh, okay, little gray being type or little phenotype objects or things, like fairies and so on. They all appear around the same time around this particular geographical pattern, right? So we'll start to understand. I think we'll come up with better words, better languages, better classifications, and with better scientific instruments that will be developed. And again, OpenNHI will accelerate the heck out of it, because right now the incentive is to keep everything private. No group wants to share their data or their tech. Um, um, but when we're all sharing our data and tech, we will accelerate. how much we're understanding and how much data we can understand and acquire. So imagine what happens when somebody invents some sort of cool open source gravimetric sensor for quantum gravity, right? So that would be huge. Now suddenly maybe space, like maybe our atmosphere will light up like a Christmas tree and we're constantly detecting UFOs, right? Like that will happen. So yeah.
And what are your thoughts on Skywatcher? Obviously, they're utilizing a lot of technology in the work that they do, but they've also got this psionic aspect to it. So they're kind of almost blending two sides of this subject when it comes to their investigations. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Skywatchers is a great example. They're a harbinger, positive harbinger of what's to come, or and maybe a harbinger in a negative way for the gatekeepers, right? Because they represent an excellent group of people who I think we're going to be seeing more and more efforts like this, where you're going to have psionic assets, whatever you'd like to call them, like if you were to ask the Rama group out in Peru, who also summon UFOs and stuff like that, right? Like they would call it the shaman. Like it's all the same thing, just different concepts. So yeah, I'm very bullish on Skywatcher. I hope to get as much data as they can. I hope they contribute to the Open NHI platform too, and open source all their stuff. That would be awesome, as much as they can.
Of course, yeah. And so, how do you approach people within the tech community or the scientific community with this conversation about UAP? Is there a certain way that you do that?
Yeah, in terms of approaching folks. Thanks, man. You have a great day. I would say that I think I first of all I do it no differently than just like be myself. Like I don't treat it as like some weird thing. The cool thing is that in San Francisco, first of all, San Francisco has deep occult origins, right? So there's like an undertone of weirdness already, and then California in general has a weird like type thing going on. I don't really know. So like and like all these like movements, like we and San Francisco, for example, has gone through so many cultural movements. The hippie movement, right? The digital renaissance, the internet boom, the dot-com boom, like AI boom. Like we've seen it all. So it's not that hard actually. It's not weird at all for me to bring up UAPs or anything like that. And I think I only bring it up like when people ask me but I think I'm gonna stop doing that though, like because I didn't realize how many people were interested, but then when we launched the SF UAP hackathon, we were way past capacity. Like the average hackathon, you'll be lucky to get like 30 people to show up to this because there are hackathons every day. There's like 3 or 4 hackathons every day in San Francisco, right? And so I was expecting that, like not really like much. But yeah, we had 200 at the max, like that was our capacity, and we had like over 300 plus applicants, and these were really talented people. It was very hard to like figure out who to let in. Yeah.
So that gives you a really good baseline about any future events. So do you have anything in the pipeline already? I know it's only been less than a week, but does that give you kind of motivation to continue?
Definitely. So I think yeah, what it's given me motivation to do one ASAP. I'm hoping to, nope, no promise. I'm gonna be careful. Hoping to do another one in a few months in Vancouver. So that can be really fun as well. Yeah, it's a little bit in Canada. And then yeah, I've been getting offers to keep doing this stuff. I want to turn this into eventually a quarterly thing for sure. Because there's so many other problems that I'm hoping people work on. So yeah, that will be up and coming. Yeah. And then yeah, I was gonna also start. I'll also be hosting anti-gravity meetups as well as psionics meetups as well here in the Bay Area for anyone who's interested. We'll also start doing like virtual stuff as well, and then eventually, I want to have like a big institute um, in San Francisco, like physically, for people to show up. It'll be like a commons. People bring tech information, and the whole goal is to do this for humanity. So.
No, that's great. And I mean, a lot of these projects and this technology that comes out of these hackathons, what are your plans as far as, have these things been tested? How do you know which ones to kind of roll with going forward and which ones maybe too early in the process to kind of completely hang on to?
Yeah, so I think the projects that are really in maturation, that was awesome was the APT, the Atom Probe Tomography Visualization Tool. So that, in my opinion, that's ready to go. They immediately used it to find anomalies in the data that no one has seen before, including Gary. So, that's really cool. That's a mature application. One that's a little bit farther away. These guys did a great job. They weren't able to get the IR part, but there was one team that was putting together this $15,000 camera that I believe David Hooper brought, and they were essentially connecting it to a Raspberry Pi, and the idea was to eventually apply autonomous AI driven computer vision for object detection and object tracking. So they were able to get that working for the visible spectrum and electro-optical spectrum. They were not able to get that for the infrared functionality. Now, I will say the infrared sensor, being able to develop a software that lets you detect and track UAPs, or well, any object in infrared that's moving autonomously. Um, there's only one software in the entire industry. So if you make it, that's commercially valuable, no matter to anybody. So we're a little bit farther out than I thought, but I think just because I think I overestimated the technical difficulties until I saw it firsthand. To be honest with you, like that now I understand why it's so damn hard, but it's doable and it's gonna be solved. So yeah.
That's great. That's really good to hear. It's really interesting. Now, Deep, I really have to ask you your thoughts on this whole government disclosure process that we've seen happening really since 2017. Where do you think we're at with regards to these fairly regular hearings? Do you think we're ultimately moving towards any form of disclosure down that avenue?
I'm cautiously optimistic that we are. Um, there's a chance that uh, I get killed and every single person who went to the hackathon gets killed, and then everyone gets so scared that nobody ever wants to touch this topic again for like decades. Or I'm just kidding. Like it's such a low probability event, but but I should not joke about these things. So I knocked on wood just to be safe. But yeah, I think left to the government, we're fucked. This is going nowhere. These hearings will go nowhere. Um, that is why the SF UAP hackathon exists. That's why we're going to keep doing our things, and we're going to support the government. They cannot be the ones. It is not their job to disclose. That's what people forget. It's written nowhere in the Constitution that disclosure is owed to us. So let's just remember that. But I think it's powerful. It's necessary, but not sufficient. These hearings. That's how, and this political momentum. That's how I think about it. We got to be the sufficient part of it.
No, I like that. Yeah, I think, there is always just as good an opportunity for we the people to be the ones to bring forward this information.
Now is our best we have more things going for us than ever before as the public. So yeah, now's the time.
So your open NHI platform, is that currently live? Is there somewhere people can go and look at what's on there already, or is that something that you're building up to?
We are building up to it. We do have a site that's live right now, but we're going to be going live with the first application hopefully in the next 6 months.
So in the meantime, in the build up to you sort of launching Open NHI, where's the best place where people can kind of keep up with the latest, hear about any new hackathons that may be coming up, and any other work that you're doing for the subject?
That I guess my Twitter is probably the best place. That's the place that I use to advertise all of this. So yeah, that would be at Deep Neuron, DWEPNEURON. Um, yeah,
Perfect. No, amazing. I'll make sure that that's linked in the description. Well, Deep, I really appreciate you jumping on and telling me about the hackathon and all that information. I find it fascinating, and I really wish you all the best with all the work in the future.
pleasure, Vinny. It's so great hearing from you again. And man, next time you're here or next time I'm in your place, let's go get a beer.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Deep. And to everyone watching, please go and follow Deep over on X and support the work that they're doing over there. Absolutely wonderful. But for now, take care, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.